You can animate or keyframe both video and audio effects in both the Effect Controls panel and in the timeline. Now, I haven't explained how to control video effects in the timeline because that workflow is not all that intuitive. But it's a different story for audio. So what I want to do in this lesson is explain how to control the audio fixed effects in the Effect Controls panel, and then in the next lesson, show you how to control the fixed effects in the timeline. So to follow along, go to Working Files, Projects, and go on down to 1703, Adjust Audio, Effect Controls panel. Now when you select a file that has audio in it, be it a video file with audio in it or a standalone audio file, and then go to the Effect Controls panel, you'll see that there are some number of fixed effects. If you have a stereo file, then there are 3 fixed effects: volume, channel volume, and panner. Channel volume controls the right and left channels, and panner pans it left and right. If it's a monaural file, there's no channel volume because there's only one channel, so the volume control equals the channel volume. And if you go down to a 5.1 file, you'll see that there's no panner because there are 6 channels here, so you can't pan amongst the channels, but the channel volume has one control for each of the 6 channels in the 5.1 file. So those are the fixed effects. We're going to start working with this stereo file here. What I want to do with this one is just simply lower the volume. It'll sound kind of loud, but in fact it's not too loud. I'll play it for just a moment, and I want you to watch the VU meter here, the volume unit meter here, and see that it does not get to 0. It just gets below 0, and that's on purpose. That's the way it was mixed, to avoid getting to 0, but just pushing it as far as it could to keep the wall of sound here, which is popular for pop music.
Well, I know how much you wanted me to stay, but it just couldn't be that way.
There you go. It never gets into that little red mark there. It never pushes it beyond 0. This 0 stands for 0 decibels below full scale. You don't want to hit 0 because then you'll start distorting or clipping your audio. You start literally clipping off the peaks of your audio and creating a rough edge sound. So if you stay below that, you're safe. Right now, this is just below it, which is where it belongs if you're making pop music that you're just trying to fill the auditorium with. But I want to lower the volume on it just to show you how it's done. So this one's selected. We go up here to the Effect Controls panel. And under Volume, you can see that the volume controls are already keyframed. That's by default, because it's kind of assumed if you're going to change the volume, you're probably going to change it more than once. Nevertheless, the keyframes are turned on by default. And I want to lower the volume. You can just drag this like that to the left if you want to. It'll lower the volume. You're dropping it in decibels. It starts at 0 decibels, which sounds like it would be silence, right? But 0 decibels means the original volume of the clip. So you start at 0 and you drop below 0, meaning you're dropping the volume of the clip. You go above 0, you're raising the volume of the clip. So now we're going down, and it sounds like this. So it's pretty simple to lower it. If you open up the disclosure triangle, you see you got a little slider here. The slider goes to negative infinity, which is silence, up to 6. So you can raise this only 6 decibels above its original volume level. And 6 decibels is not that much if you've got a quiet sound, but in this case, we wouldn't want to go any louder because we would peak it out there. We start hitting the red marks there and distorting the audio. So now we've lowered it. But if I lower it more now or change it, it's going to add a keyframe. So it'll now go from this to even quieter. I can bring it back up again. We'll keyframe it again. And then bring it all the way back up like that. So that's how you can change the volume level inside the Effect Controls panel. We can also control the channel volume on right and left channels. So I'm going to delete these keyframes and go back to the beginning there so we can work on channel volume. We're back to 0 dB now. I'm going to lower it just a bit though, just to keep from knocking our speakers out. Go down to the channel volume. The channel volume lets you control the channels individually. So I can control the left channel or the right channel. So I'm going to drop the left channel here way down. So now you're hearing it out of the right channel, right? Bring it back up like that, and I'll drop the right channel down now. I know how much you wanted me to stay. See how that works? So you can control those channels individually. When you go down to the panner just pans the audio left and right. So here's how that works. But it just couldn't be that way. So you can keyframe the panning left and right, which we're going to do in a moment here when we work with the thunderstorm. All right, let's move on down to Gettysburg here and click on that one. Let me play this one.
Years ago, our fathers brought forth
you can see the volume level is way down here.
on this continent
Quite quiet. So I'm going to try to raise the volume, but it won't be enough. I'm going to go to volume, and we'll try to raise the volume up, let's say, all the way to the top, which is 6 decibels. Now, you know sometimes when you get to the limit here and you can't go any farther, you can just type in a new number, like 10, for example. But not this time. 6 is it. If you open up the slider, you can only go to 6, and they mean only going to 6. So I played again.
Nation. Conceived in
And it
liberty.
went from about, minus 26 now to a minus 20 or so.
Liberty. And dedicated.
So it's still relatively quiet. If we want to boost it, we really want to boost it some other way. We can't boost it here. So the way to boost something that's too quiet and that can't be boosted enough by the volume control and the effect controls panel is to right-click on the clip and go over here to audio gain. Click on that. And here you can type in the gain amount. So let's just type in, let's say 12. So we'll go up 12 decibels instead of only 6 there. And now we're going up 18 altogether.
Nation. Conceived in liberty and dedicated to the.
There you go. And notice it hit the little red mark there because it did go a little bit above 0 dBFS, 0 decibels below full scale. There'd be a little bit of distortion there if it lasted for very long, but it just was a moment, so it's not that big of a deal. But now I can drop it down and have more control over it. So I'm going to knock out the keyframes here. I don't mind losing them. We'll kind of take it back and see what the right level is now.
This continent, a new nation. Conceived in liberty.
There you go. So now I've got a good compromise. We've raised it 12 and then brought this up just a little bit just to get good control that way. You can pan this monaural signal because we're working with a stereo master here. You get 2 channels coming out of here. So let's just pan me left and right.
Brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all.
There we go. So you work with monaural channels that way. Let's take a look at a 5.1 file. 5.1 audio has 6 channels, really. The 0.1 is this last one, LFE, low frequency effects, which is usually the bass. Then you've got a center channel. And then right surround, left surround, those are the back speakers, and left and right, those are the ones in the front. Bypass means, by the way, any kind of thing that you apply here, any change that you've applied will be turned off for that period of time that the bypass is on. That's what bypass means. You'll see that in a lot of audio effects. You can turn the effect on or off instantly, basically. You can keyframe the on-off values. So that's how that works for 5.1. Let's move on down to this sequence over here. I want to use keyframes to increase the volume of the music and this water. I took out the waterfalls because they were too loud. Let's just listen to this for a moment. Okay, so I think maybe by there we should have the volume up to full. So I'm going to click on the music first, open up volume. Keyframes are on automatically, so right now there's no keyframe set yet. You got to tell it to put a keyframe there to say that this is the full volume that we want. So just click on this little diamond to say, okay, put a keyframe there that represents full volume. Go back to the beginning and say, let's put a keyframe at the beginning that represents silence. So I just drag this down to negative infinity, and that puts in a keyframe automatically because we made a change at a new time. Let's see how that works. Let's go on over to this clip over here, do the same thing. But I want to get my keyframes lined up. So I go back here, and I want to make sure I'm on the keyframe here. On that one there, there you go. That'll be the same timing. It's not so critical with audio, but we want to get them pretty close together. So that's the current time indicator at that point where the music is at its fullest volume. Now I go to the audio associated with the water. I'm going to put a keyframe there for full volume. Notice we got the video effects here as well now because it's a video clip. Open up the volume, put on a keyframe there by clicking it like that. That puts a keyframe there at 0 dB. Go back to the beginning of the clip and knock this guy down to negative infinity. Now we'll see what that sounds like. Sounds pretty good. Let's do the same thing at the end. That's an abrupt ending on purpose. I just clipped it off there. So we really want to let that one fade out for a while. So I'm going to start the fade right about there. So I select scenic music. I want this keyframe here to be equal to that one. So I just click on this diamond to say, whatever this keyframe is here, make that one the same over there. Okay. Now it's going to go from there to there without changing. Now I go to the end of the clip, press the down arrow key, and then back one frame by pressing the left arrow key. And I'm going to take my volume on that clip down to negative infinity. So it goes like this now. I could drop the audio of the scenic clip, but I kind of like the birds there at the end. They just kind of take it out a little bit like that. All right, so that's how you can control volume in terms of keyframes using the Effect Controls panel. Notice that keyframes are showing up here inside the timeline. We're going to talk about how to apply keyframes here in the timeline in the next lesson. All right, let's move on down to these 2 clips at the end. I'm going to spread things out by pressing the plus key a couple of times, moving over a bit like that. We can see things a little better. We want the wind to come up and then the thunder to come up. And I want the thunder to come up from the right side of the screen and work into the center, kind of follow the clouds. I'm going to open up this track view by clicking this disclosure triangle so we can see its waveform over there. This is the waveform there. All right, I want the wind to come up with keyframes. So I'm going to go right here. Let's say this is where the wind should be full volume, I think right about there. So I'm going to go to the wind clip like that, select it, open up volume, click the add remove keyframe button to set a keyframe there. Go back to the beginning of the clip by pressing the up arrow key. Set this down to negative infinity. Silence. There you go. So the wind will come up like this. There you go. And now we'll do the same thing with the thunder. We'll have thunder reach its full volume right about there. So select thunder. Turn on a keyframe for volume there. At that point that matches 0 dB. Go to the beginning of that clip. Now if I press the up arrow key, it's going to go to the beginning of this clip because that track's selected. If I hold down the shift key, then the up arrow key will take us to the next edit point of any clip on any track. There we go. Now I want to take this volume level to negative infinity as well. Bring that one down like that. All right, that's going to sound like this now. I'm thinking maybe we can bring the volume of the wind down a bit, but that's something you might do on your own. Nevertheless, the thunder is coming up. And what I want to do is have the thunder come in from the right. And I'm thinking the thunder could be a little bit louder too. So I'm going to go back to this keyframe here by navigating to it like that. I'm going to raise the volume a little bit. Let's take it beyond the point where we took it, maybe to 3 or so, like that. Like so. Now I want to have it come in from the right. So I'm going to close the volume disclosure triangle. Panner is open here. So I want to have it when it comes in, let's say right about there, that'll be the starting point. We're going to keyframe that position there like so, and then slide the slider all the way to the right. There we go. That'll be the starting point. And then by the time the clouds roll in there, right about there, I think we want the thunder to be dead center. Maybe a little bit left like that. Now the thunder will kind of roll across the screen. Something like that. It might not be distinctly obvious, but that's kind of a cool effect to kind of add some realism to this. So that's how you control audio volume, channel volume, and panning inside the Effect Controls panel. I'm going to show you similar processes inside the timeline in the next lesson.